Good day, everyone, and welcome to A Drew Story, the interview podcast that tells stories from true, everyday people. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and this story, I have a chat with a good friend of mine, Dane Pevy. He is host of the mental health podcast, Pushing Through Blue, and he is the absolute perfect guest to have on the return of A Drew Story, because if you can't tell by looking at your podcast player of choice, it's been a while. It's been over 2 years since the last episode, and unfortunately for me, that was because I ran into some mental health issues and some struggles that I had to work through. But luckily enough now, I'm all good. I'm happy. You know, not every day is sunshine and rainbows necessarily, but I'm good. I'm in a good place. Just got married, having a kid in about 4 months or so. So it's looking up, looking good. But unfortunately, back in 2019, that wasn't the case. I got home every day from work and I just felt miserable. I felt like nothing would get better, and unfortunately I just sort of fell down to a spiral, and that led to me not being motivated and in the right place to be talking and producing a podcast where I'm trying to share people's interesting stories. So for the return of this podcast, I reached out to Dane. He is an absolutely fantastic friend of mine, and I met through podcasting itself. I believe he was an 8-bit listener when we were part of the 8-bit collective with the House of Mario. And, since then he started up his podcast called Pushing Through Blue. And through that, he shared his own mental health journey, other people's mental health journeys, and sort of ways you can tackle it and ways you can sort of embrace it and learn from it. So I thought that was a absolutely fantastic podcast for him to start. And without really knowing it, I listened to Dane's podcast because I just like Dane. I like listening to Dane. But sort of the lessons through that podcast that I picked up were really invaluable and actually helped me to get out of my rut I was in. So, a big thank you to Dane, and I'm really happy to talk to him on this episode. But funnily enough, I actually recorded this about a year ago, back in 2020 in April, I believe, by looking at the timestamps of the recording. So this is a little bit old. This is over a year since I'm recording this start of the podcast. And we do talk about some things that are, relevant to 2020, such as, just getting into lockdown, and Animal Crossing on Nintendo Switch just came out. So we were talking about that. But, Animal Crossing, it's a good game in 2021, so it's all good. But, yeah. So we start off, we talk about some fun things before getting into, some more serious mental health talk. So it's an important topic, and I'm glad to be back doing A Drew Story. So yeah, man, it feels good to be doing this again. I'll try and keep it up and being consistent. But that's enough of me. Let's jump into the episode with Dane Pevy. Dane Pevy, welcome to A Drew Story.
Mate, thank you so much for being here. Happy to have these conversations and have a chat with you, mate. What's new? What's doing?
Oh, well, not too much. Just sitting here talking to you at the moment.
Oh, mate, it's a great life.
Absolutely. I wouldn't,
mate, I appreciate your time. It's good. It's good to chat. We haven't had a chat for a little while, anyway.
Yeah, it's a good excuse to catch up and everything. And I guess one of the reasons I wanted to have you on for the first episode, that basically I come back from a little bit of a big hiatus. The last episode of A Drew Story was 8 months ago, and basically that was because I went through, a bit of a mental health upset or something. I don't know how to word it, and obviously with you running your podcast, Pushing Through Blue. Listening to that really sort of helped me think about sort of identifying maybe what was going on in my head a little bit. So, that is why I sort of wanted to have you on the show. And it is going to be a little bit more of a difficult episode just for me to talk about it. So just to let people out there listening, why is he stumbling and splattering his mouth so much? That's why.
Oh, man, I appreciate you starting these conversations. It's really good. It's important to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to that, I've got some icebreaker questions for you, just so we can get into the swing of things. We've been talking for about 20 minutes already, but we weren't on the air officially just yet. But
we're officially on the air.
We are.
The red light is going.
Yep, it's blinking. It's yes. Um, so the first question, a bit of a silly question. Do you prefer the shower during the day or at night?
Oh, good question. I do both. I've actually been recently doing both. So I always do a shower in the morning, and always finish with a cold shower. I think that's really important. I've been doing that for a little while now. I think it's a big difference, and especially starting your day. And then at nighttime, I still do it. Like, I think I see the benefits in both of them, to be honest. Like, at the start of the day, it sort of wakes you up, gives you a good, boost start of the day. At the end of the day, it's I think makes you sleep better, to be honest. So I'm using up all the water, mate. I apologize to everyone that's very water conservative. I'm chewing them both up. But if I had to choose out of one or the other, if I had to go one, I'd probably do the morning. I think what you do in the morning really dictates the rest of your day. And I think it's important. As important to me as having a coffee is that shower and ending it on a cold note, probably like 50. The last 2 or 3 minutes at the end of the shower, just smash that cold, and it's good times.
Yeah, I like when I went to school, I loved like getting up a little bit earlier and having a shower. But now, like after school and with my job just being like on the farm, there is like no point in me having a shower in the morning because I'm just going to go out and just get filthy anyway. But I really do miss it. Like now that you've brought up, I really do miss having like a nice shower just to get you started in the morning. It was just really, really nice. But I don't have a choice anyway. Sort of when I get home, I need a shower. Like I really need a shower. I can't get into bed without having a shower, without getting dirt and that all over the sheets. But yeah, it just. Whenever I get out, if I have a shower too early, say if I get home a bit early or something, and I have like a shower at 5 o'clock, I'll be ready for bed at 6 because it just puts me to sleep.
Oh dear. So that's gold.
Yeah, and like I do the thing where you get out the shower and you put some jocks and a t-shirt on. And you're like, I might just slip in the bed. Then that's the wrong move to make. It really is, because then
that's when you get comfortable.
Yeah,
real comfortable.
Yeah. So yeah. I do miss morning showers.
Morning showers are important. I think just the night showers, I think it's probably more just like quality of sleep maybe, or it contributes to it. Like when you get clean sheets, and I don't know how, or obviously clean sheets are fantastic. It's the best thing in the world. It's always been the best thing in the world when you're going to bed. But I don't know, it changes the way your quality of sleep. You look forward to it. It just makes you, I don't know what it is. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. And it's the same thing with just having a shower at the end of the day. I guess from your side of things, it's just a functional thing, especially working on the farm. But yeah, I don't know. I like both of them. I can see the benefits of both of them. But yeah, I've always been a morning. Let's go in the morning.
All right. So we're at opposite ends of the day. I like it.
There you go.
So what is the worst haircut you've ever had?
Whoa, worst haircut. Man, that's a good one.
Or have you only had good haircuts?
Nah, I've had some bad haircuts. But I'm just trying to work out if I've created those bad haircuts. When you say, I've got this idea of a haircut, and then you try and describe it, and then, they try and execute it, and you're like, is it you giving the haircut, or is it just I haven't given you the right instructions, and you just walk away? I don't know. There was a point there. I remember when I was younger, that I was growing out my hair for a long time, and I can find this photo. I probably was around about 17. I reckon I was about 17, and I was in that emo phase, as many of us were, and I had this black hair that I dyed, and it just grew out. And I remember just having to leave it that way, and because a friend of the family wanted to take she was not a photographer, she was a hairdresser, and she wanted to have a certain style of hair and use me as a hair model, but I had to leave my hair, just let it go for a long period of time. And it just looked horrendous. And all I wanted to do was cut it so badly. But I remember she just saying, no, you can't do it. Just let it go, let it go. And it turns out, by the end of it, I'm like, this is getting ridiculous. Can I just cut my hair? And she was like, oh, yeah. No, actually, I don't need that anymore. I'm not doing that. Mate, I'll have to share that photo with you. It's horrendous. But yeah, so, I mean, the worst haircut, probably something that I've probably just gone, can you make it short, or can you do some side things on the side or whatever? And it's just come out horrendous. I don't know. I've got some terrible photos when I was a young kid. My parents used to love having the mullet haircut. I don't know how you were. I'm 34 years of age, so it's probably showing my age. But my mum and dad loved to have me as in the mullet haircut back in the day when I was 4 or 5.
Oh no!
So I've got all those photos, that mum and dad loved to keep and pull out of me running around with the mullet, and it was the trend back in the day. So I'm gonna go with that. Thanks, mum and dad. you're a great bunch, and you love to show me off. So not my choice, but mate, that's the worst I've got.
Yeah, a mullet's pretty bad. I don't know.
It's
like,
pretty bad.
You see like the odd person still getting around with a mullet. You're like, how are you getting around with a mullet in 2020?
Oh, these days, yeah. I think they're out for the look and the attraction for it because purely like, I don't know, by choice, it's a bit hard.
Or like
But
they
yeah,
shave
I know.
everything apart from the mullet. That is something. That is some. I don't know if you ever saw it or just looked at it on the internet or something. But someone just with a mullet and a bald head. That's a choice.
That's terrible,
It's
isn't
a
it?
choice. Yeah.
That is a bad choice. That's what that is.
The worst haircut I've ever had would be, I can't really remember it as a kid, but my mum brought up like a school photo and my hair, like my head looked so small, but my hair just looked massive because my hair just like grows out. It just becomes like basically this big afro. And when I was a kid, I didn't like to get it cut short because I was like a bit insecure about, I guess, how I looked. So I was like keeping my hair long to like, I guess, cover up my forehead or whatever it was. But yeah, looking back on it, it's like, what were you thinking? It looks absolutely terrible. Yeah.
I think we've all got those.
Yeah.
I've got a natural mushroom hair. So like my hair, like, cause I usually like my go-to for haircuts is basically like two on the sides and then just short and spiky on the top going to a pyramid because of the shape of my head. I've got this mushroom, like literally like this mushroom type thing where it just goes out the sides like wings and then comes around. So I got to like always say to the people, hey, can you do the wings as well? So I've got a mushroom head.
Do the wings.
And that's probably about like after the time I said, oh, by the way, can you do my eyebrows? Which is a weird, like, eyebrows is interesting. It's something that like in the last probably like 6 to 12 months, I remember when someone first asked me, do you want me to do eyebrows? And I'm like, I haven't really ever been asked if you want me to do eyebrows. Like my eyebrows are bushy as it is, but I've never really had someone say to me, and it was a barber. So maybe that's part of the service as well. But to have someone say, hey, you want to do those eyebrows as well? I was like, hang on. But no, like now I actually asked for it. I'm like, mate, do you mind just finish me up on the eyebrows? A bit of bush. But I love it. So that's just another thing that I include in my requests when going to my local bar.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of a difference sort of doing the eyebrows does because, like, I've always sort of like given my eyebrows like a quick trim or whatever just while having a shave or like whatever it is. And like it just makes a big difference because like if I just like left my eyebrows, I'll just have like a big slab across my forehead. Like I look like a caveman with like this huge monobrow. So it's just one of those things you need to tend along with your face, and it's kind of lucky that I'm not doing this podcast on video because at the moment just with like the quarantine and that I'm just like what a lot of other men are doing. It's like, yeah, fuck it, I'll grow a beard.
Yeah.
So I've just got this big untamed spider on my face basically.
Oh man, I wish I could grow a beard. I did try that. Was it a year ago or something like that? And I failed miserably. I think I've attempted it a few times to try and do it over the December period. So like obviously with a couple of weeks off or so on for the Christmas period there, you try and see how you go with growing it and then you get back to work and, you try and just do it as neat as possible. But yeah, like it's difficult for me. I get massive itchiness out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been able to break through that barrier where it's like with every sort of haircut that you want to style haircut, you want to go through, there's always that point there where you're like, it just looks horrendous, but I just got to keep growing it, get through this period, and it's going to get better. I can never break through it. It's just too hard for me. I succumb to the old razor and I just shave it right off. But my wife has a big thing now at the moment with stubble, so I can never be clean shaven anymore. Like my wife hates it. Like when I'm clean shaven, she just likes a little bit of stubble, so I just dial it down a bit. And I always just have a bit of shadow. And I've been doing that for a little while now. But, I definitely like with the eyebrows, like I can see the biggest difference with them now. And that's why I'm all for it. And obviously when they go over the eyebrows and you see a lot of their hair come down, you're like, damn, they are bloody. They're a bit brushy. So, yeah.
Yeah. So do those eyebrows, you cavemen.
Do it.
And I guess another question, what have you been playing / watching? So movies, TV series, video games, what have you sort of been entertaining yourself with lately?
Yeah, so video game wise, I've been playing Animal Crossing, which is an interesting one.
My man.
Which I think I have to like everyone's playing Animal Crossing, and and I put this on Twitter, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. Like this game just came out at the perfect time, hasn't it? So I think it's just absolutely perfect, and it's a game that like the first couple of days, because I haven't been time cheating this thing. So I've been playing day by day, and it's a good one to basically pick up and do what you need to do. And just leave it. You do everything you want to do. You chill out for an hour, 2 hours, and then you can just drop it and leave it for the rest of the day. I did that, and then I realized that my kids started playing it, and they loved it, especially my daughter, who's 7.
Are they looking after your island? Are they looking after it?
Oh, my island's, mate, that's why I got to start again. My island is like, firstly, I jumped in there and I'm like, where's my trees? The trees are gone. So they worked out how to craft the axe, how to chop all the trees down, which they thought was the funniest thing ever, and I jump in there, I got nothing left. I've got holes everywhere. And then like every time I turn this thing on, and I can hear her playing, and she's got her own profile, hey, go do your own thing. No. She loves setting up on my island. She's got her tent and everything else, and she loves being in me because I've got cash and my house is a bit bigger and I've got access to different things. So she jumps on me. And I think she's gone too far beyond me now. Like Isabel's there, and I'm like, oh, she wasn't there before. And like all these other things, I'm like, oh, okay, well, this has become your game now. So I really have to, start again. But it's a great game. Like I really love it. It's something that you can just it is a time sink, but it's something that you could just chill out to. It's just, you're doing tasks, it seems, a little bit repetitive for someone that have never played it, but I just really like it, except for Seabass. Can I just say, I hate Seabass.
Yeah.
Like the ongoing funniness of this Seabass thing, like every time I'm trying to catch a shark, and I have not caught one yet. My daughter has actually caught one. She caught the hammerhead. I'm out there catching sea bass. I'm catching, what is it? Is it mackerel? Like all these commoners, the amount of seahorses I've got, like stop it, guys. But yeah, and then listening to a couple of NPCs, Alex and Andrew, shout out to those guys. Andrew, he was recommending to give, I think it's girlfriend review. So I think it's a YouTuber. Well, it is a YouTuber. She reviews video games played by her boyfriend. But she does this this was like pre-doing all the Seabass stuff. We already had the rage for it, and my daughter would just laugh every time I got one. But then she does this comedy skit on the YouTube video just recently. Go check it out. It's hilarious. And it's just talking, I think it's dubbed over. She just changes the lyrics for Billie Eilish, and she does one of the songs there, and it's just about sea bass, and it is so accurate to how much rage you get and how you get no money for them, and they just they just need to patch this issue. But and that's my island. Maybe my island sucks, and I need to travel to more islands. But I think I'm going to restart that. I really like the game. I think I've missed out on too much because my kids have taken over. Even my son just loves going fishing. So, so I'll reset that and I'll go on from there. Outside of Animal Crossing, I've just picked up Final Fantasy VII. So I've never played that before, and I've just started the game. I'm not too far into it. I'm probably about an hour or two.
The remake on PlayStation 4?
Yeah, the remake. Sorry, on PlayStation 4.
Yep.
So I think that's fantastic. Having never experienced this game and heard a lot, but never the spoilers. So I'm very fortunate there for a game.
Oh, really? You haven't heard the spoilers?
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. So no, I haven't. So you'd be quiet, Drew. So even when I turned this game on, I remember I turned this game on, and one of the things that I still can't get used to, and I say this many times every time I buy a new big PlayStation game, the time I'm such an old school Nintendo kid with these cartridges, literally just put it in, play, yay, here we go, sort of thing. Even Nintendo Switch doesn't take that long. But having to sit there for having these new games and being yes, let's go, and stick him in the man there, and just being no worries, 50 minutes to go. You're far out, these first world problems. But when I started the game and just watching it, my God, my wife was just saying I remember my wife was in the kitchen looking at it and going, is this a game? Is this the movie or the game? And I'm no, this is the game. Wow. It just looks amazing. It's beautiful. And I'm keen to just get lost in the story because apparently the story is fantastic. So from what I played so far, it's awesome. Very, very cool.
It sounds like I'm in the same boat as you pretty much. I hadn't played through the original Final Fantasy VII, and getting into this, I've only played 5 hours. I played through 5 hours maybe the weekend it came out, but I've been waiting to get back to it just because with work, and I've just been playing Animal Crossing just because it's easier and a bit more mindless instead of and also my fiance Chantel, she actually hogs the TV quite a bit for Netflix, so usually it's playing the Switch. So I usually
that's the benefit of Switch. I love the Switch.
Get stuck playing Animal Crossing anyway. But yeah, I really enjoy it too. And Probably one of the things I noticed most is I don't know if you're like it might have stood out to you, but my God, the women in that game are beautiful. Jesus, I never thought about it much in a video game, but Jesus Christ.
there is a lot of love being shared on social media for these women in this game, and rightfully so. I think I've come across the two. I've come across the two women, and I'm like, apparently, like just getting more deeper and deeper into the story. Like, do you really start to, dive into how awesome these girls are? But like even on socials, like there's guys and girls crushing over the guys and girls. Everyone's beautiful in this game, and it's just a game full of love, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Obviously with guns and big swords. And one of the things, like, it just reminded me of that. I remember one of the things that my wife, who's not, completely outside the gaming sphere as much as I'm sort of into it, I remember her just looking at one of the first scenes when Cloud jumps off the train, and I remember just her looking at the TV and going, "Are they serious? Look at the size of that sword."
And it just really sticks to his back.
I'm like, that is massive. How is he walking and doing all these things? How is that not dragging on the bottom? But it was just interesting for someone that like has never seen this character before, just to get that first impression. Like, are they serious? But they are. Absolutely.
Yeah, you said your wife isn't much of a gamer. Has Animal Crossing interested her at all, or?
Nah, I would like. So Rachel's background is that she grew up with a Nintendo. I'm just trying to remember which Nintendo it was. So I think it was. I don't even think it was the Super Nintendo. I think it was the NES, and she remembers, the Legend of Zelda. She remembers the original Mario, and I think she went from there to a PlayStation. So I think she quickly jumped on the PlayStation the PlayStation consoles. And then I think that's sort of where her journey ended. And I think it was just more of a family love affair, like it was something that her dad would sit down and play. And I think games that's really stood out to her, she played Abe's Odyssey. She loves Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider was probably one of the things that, really pricks up her ears as to something that holds nostalgia for her. So she played a lot of that. Point Blank. So the old shooting game, the arcade game, was another big one that she played through the PlayStation days. But yeah, no, I don't think she ever really got past the PlayStation 1. But she loves, it's really cool to see that she loves how the kids play and interact on the Nintendo. And I think Nintendo she sees and gets it. She understands that Nintendo is, that family type console that is the focus for families. You know what I mean? The games, the systems, the software, the portability for it. It's family in mind, I guess, first, and it's something that that's had for so long and does so well. And they get us too with the nostalgia, for us as parents too, because it's something that we've grown up with, and we hope kids will enjoy it as well. They'll get value out of that. Not that we push that onto. But yeah, and our kids love it too. My son, and I mentioned in previous podcasts, he's heavily into Spider-Man. He loves Spider-Man at the moment. Big part of working at home. I do Zoom meetings. I'm on the phone all the time at the moment, and I'm always getting intrusions, from Spider-Man coming in with his outfit, jumping up and down on the couches and that. Awesome. And I think the first maybe week or two, I was sort of like. And I think many people might resonate with this, is that, working at home, you're sort of apologetic from the noises and everything around you, whether it's the dog or the kids or things like that. But now, I don't know how many weeks in, what are we, 4 or 5 weeks in now? I just I think it is the new normal. Like when I'm speaking to people on the phone, whether it's clients or other groups or product providers or things like that, you can hear a dog in the background. This person's working on the kitchen table. They're doing all these things. It's just become, it is what it is now. And it's acceptable, and it should be, because we're all trying to do the right thing where we can, if you can. And I guess, yeah. So, coming back to the Spider-Man, he loves Spider-Man. And, So in coming back to your bit, with regards to my wife, I'll go on tangents, guys. I'm sorry. She's had exposure to video games. She does enjoy video games, but actually getting her to sit down and play a video game, I think it's just a battle that I probably won't win. Unless it's something I can get her to sit down and play Mario Kart or Mario Party with the kids. I think if we can all sit down and play something together, I think that's the key. That's the best, the closest thing I'm going to get at the moment.
Yeah. Because I just asked because I'm always looking at what I can try and get Chantel into. She sort of struggles with using a controller just because like a video game controller with like 2 analog sticks, buttons, triggers, and that. It's like it's very daunting to someone who hasn't grown up with video games.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I found out that she had a DS back in the day. I'm like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, had Mario Kart, Brain Training, and like a few DS games. Like, really? Because she's like someone who just has nothing to do with video games. And I'm like, oh, what's a good party game? Oh, Smash Bros. Like Smash Bros. But it's like too competitive. Like, I'm really into Smash, so there's no way I'm probably going to lose against her. Then like Mario Kart, like even then it's a similar thing. And when Animal Crossing was coming up, I'm like, well, that is a very chill game. Like, it's not reflex. You just do what you got to do. You can spend as little time in as you want. You can spend all day in it if you want. So I'm like, well, I can set up Chantel. She can have her own house. She can be on my island. We can have fun. The game comes out. We're playing it. I'm like, oh, would you like to give this a go? She's like, oh, it looks like an educational game for kindergartners. I'm like, well, that's not quite what I was.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective on it. But I guess like you actually, and that's interesting too, because like until you actually start playing a game or you start to dive into the mechanics and what you're doing, I think it probably would be a good entry level. But just trying to get through that barrier, it's good to know that she's actually had a DS in the past, and I think she'd be pretty all over using the hardware for that. I would have thought as a personal trainer, do you reckon that'd be something that she'd be getting to something like say Ring Fit Adventure when you can get it? I say that when you can get it, you can't get it anymore.
Yeah. I was thinking.
Do you reckon that'd be something she'd be interested in?
I was thinking about it. I'm not sure. I sort of asked her. I think she just sort of whatever. Like, it could be like an interesting thing to like incorporate into maybe what she does. I'm not sure.
I'm interested to see how for someone that does it day in and day out, being a PE, that looks at like personal trainer, that looks at I'll say PE. I'm a PT, sorry. As a personal trainer, when they look at things like this in the peripherals and having these gaming meet fitness, whether to be something of interest to them or it's something that sort of they're like, oh, why would I do that when I can, actually go for a run outside and do all these things without the screen? Or would they pick it to pieces to say, well, okay, this person's not worrying about breathing or technique, which I think like in a couple of reviews that I've watched, which was recently, until I found out you can't buy this thing anywhere, is that, a few of these YouTube reviews have had like personal trainers have a look at it. And apparently, there's a lot invested into it with regards to, form and technique and all these other things that I guess someone that is more knowledgeable in the area might be, well, this is a difference between, one of the things they're doing difference between a video game versus, doing it with real weights or so on and so forth. Or a real personal trainer, to be honest. Yeah,
and maybe for someone's like, oh, why don't you just go outside and do something, or just watch a DVD? Well, I think probably what you do with like an interactive game, whether it was like Wii Fit back in the day or Ring Fit Adventure on Switch now, it might be like probably a lot more fun way. Because I know like if I was just watching a DVD doing sit-ups, I'd be like, oh, this sucks. But if you're like, oh, I've got to beat the dragon. It gives you and you see like numbers flashing on the screen and the level going up. You're like, yes. I don't know. That's probably just the gamer inside me too. I don't know.
No, I like the distraction to it. I like the fact that you're doing something that's beneficial to you both physically and mentally as well. But it's something that like something else is distracting you. Maybe it's getting you through the difficult going through the fitness side of things. It's a good distraction, and it's something that you can be like, oh, I'm really enjoying this game. Oh, by the way, I'm sweating my ass off, and I've just done X amount of calories and so on. So sometimes it's a good, if you can incorporate, fitness with a good distraction, however that looks like, whether it's you actually playing, sports or a game or so on, I think it's a good thing. And I think they've done that well, not having my hands on, but I have spoken to Eric about it and he loves it and sees the benefits out of it, which is always a green thumb tick.
Yeah. I wasn't interested in it when it first came out, but just seeing everything that's come out after release, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind giving it another go. It's like a bit expensive. It's $120, but
and I'm interested to see if I'm interested, like, because I'm the same as you. I wasn't interested back in the day, but everything we're going through now, I'm sort of like, well, now I am interested. And now I know why it's sold out, and now I'm looking out for one. So, but I get it. It's not cheap, but I mean, Nintendo never is it?
No, that's an expensive hobby in general. Video games.
That's right.
Yeah. So I guess a better move away from the House of Mario segment of the show.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay. You forgot what show you're on.
That's right. I do love Nintendo.
Yeah, so do I.
That's good.
Have I made that obvious?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's right
You
then.
built a house on it.
I did. So I guess let's move into sort of the mental health side of the show. Just I guess we'll just talk about I guess we'll start off with you, so then I can sort of ease into it, and some of the the experiences and realizations you went through to sort of like start up your podcast, Pushing Through Blue, to sort of want to push forward and sort of get the message out to people and make people aware that they're not alone and that there is help out there, and sort of talk to different people throughout the community, whether it's Twitch streamers or people in the mental health sort of industry itself. So yeah, sort of what sort of got you started on the whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess like the creation of Pushing Through Blue just came from my own story, really, and my own experiences. About 7 years ago, I went through severe anxiety, and that was created through a situation in my life where I had a lot of things coming at me at once. I had a lot of work pressures. I also become a new father for the first time, which is very daunting. And I guess it's something that at that point in time, I just didn't know how best to handle it. And the only way that I did know or felt that I could handle it was internalizing it, not speaking about it, just basically just living with it and hoping that it would pass. And it didn't pass. And for me, it was something that sat heavily on my shoulders and in my head. And I guess from that, it got worse for me. And as a result of that, I guess that severe anxiety turned into depression for me. And it was something it got to a point that it was really bad that I really just started, speaking out. I got to a point there where, I did the hardest thing, and it was putting up my hand and said, I need help. And I became very vulnerable, and I'm so appreciative that I got to that point. And I guess from my experiences, and I'm happy to go into that a little bit further as well, is that I just want people, I don't believe that it got as bad for me if I hadn't have, spoken up. And I think the reason why I didn't speak up was for a number of reasons. It's obviously the stigma that's surrounding mental illness, mental health that we place on ourselves internally, but obviously externally within society as well, and how people view it, and a lot of the misconceptions around it and the lies that are out there associated with it, because we're just not better educated about it. And obviously just like being vulnerable and talking about our feelings is so hard. And especially at a point in time where I thought I could handle the things that are around me. I thought it would get easier, and it wasn't. And I think I just I put so much stress and burden on myself that, and it manifested in something for me that basically just started creating lies within my own self. And so like just with that one there, I guess the big thing, there was a number of things for me that really helped me. And one of which was, hearing other people's stories, real lived experiences. Cause I think the beauty and the power in having people share their stories is that you resonate with those. People have different stories. And I think this is one of the big reasons why I created this podcast, is that for someone telling their story, for someone being so vulnerable and talking about their own mental health journey, the ups and downs, the darkest times, and how they got through it and how they're managing it now, I think only until you listen to someone that has a story that resonates with yourself, whether it's similar or the same, does it really provide you, genuine hope, and that it's going to get better, and that if this person can get through it and this person's going through the same things that I'm going through, then I've got the ability to get through this, as dark as it is now, and everything that it's going through, I can make it through. And it's just that strength to be able to either, reach out for help, start a conversation, for a person that might just be, struggling internally, because it's something that I feel that so many people are struggling with, and they're struggling with it in silence. And I hate that. And it chews me up, because I've been there. I've been in that situation where I've just held it tight, and it has just continued to snowball. And in doing so, it just got worse and worse for me. And it was only when I started learning to talk about it, to verbalize it, to articulate it to people, because I didn't know. I was never educated about mental health. It was something that only when it got really bad did it actually dawn on me what it was. And so like coming back to the podcast, I mean, like the biggest thing is I just want people I want people to talk, about mental health and mental illness, without the fear of judgment or, being labeled or, thought less of, because, that's what happens, when we feel like we're going to talk to mental health about someone, we can be a burden on someone else. And I want to remove all this stigma and misconception around, mental health and mental illness. And I mean, my belief in doing that is just creating awareness and empathy. And that's coming back to those, just sharing those real lived stories, these experiences. It's someone's truth. It's coming from a genuine place. And the biggest part of this as well, and I've been there and I hate it, is just the fact that I don't want people to feel like they're alone. Because until you start listening to people's stories, you realize that you're not alone, that there are so many people, if you're going through it or you're having these thoughts and feelings of the way that you are, there are certainly other people out there that are doing that, and that as much as we go through in life, and we all go through adversity, there's no sugarcoating it. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's a breakup, a loss of someone, losing your job, having a bad day, a week, a year, we're all going to go through adversities here, and you're going to go through the emotions, and never discount that. If you're having a shit time, it's okay to feel like that. If you're feeling down, it is okay to feel like that, but know that you've got to have more good days than bad days. And I just want to help create those conversations. I want to help allow people to realize that, and I guess even share the message of, the benefit of talking to people, and not only sharing their messages and stories as well, is that, a lot of people that aren't talking, should be talking about it. And it just creates awareness to a lot of mental illnesses. They get labeled or get misinformed, and all these things that just allow people to not talk about what's going on, and it just makes it worse. And so it's a big, I just want to start these conversations. I want to promote these conversations, that it's okay to talk about mental health. It doesn't have to be a dark and scary conversation. A lot of people think that they don't want to have these conversations for so many misconceptions. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. What happens if they have these conversations? How are they going to react to this? Am I actually going to be beneficial? Am I going to be helping this person? Am I going to put them in a worse situation by having these conversations? A lot of these misconceptions about people and their personalities because of their mental illness. And I think that it really comes down to that empathy, as I mentioned. Better understanding someone, better understanding their situation, their circumstances. Why are they like that? The life that they've lived. You don't know a person until you've actually sat down and listened to their story. And I think there's a lot of value in people's stories and listening and sharing their stories. And I think the biggest thing that I just want to resonate is that my story may not connect with everyone. I documented my story in an episode, one of the first episodes on the podcast, and I don't expect that to resonate with everyone, but I hope that by getting people on the podcast, these awesome, awesome people that have been brave and vulnerable to share their story and have these open conversations with me and the people that listen to that, it's going to resonate with someone. If it only is one person, that it resonates with them to say, me too, that's what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? This person is going through that the same way I'm feeling right now, and they're getting through it, and it may not go away, but I can learn to manage it, and I can do these things to be more resilient to it. That's huge for me. It's one of the biggest things I want out of this podcast, is just so that we can, if it can help someone make life easier, make it easier for them to talk and put up their hand and have these conversations. Happy days. I mean, that's the reason why I did it.
And like for me, it's just it helped me a lot. And like, just when you started off, like, he's like, oh, I'm doing a new podcast, I'm pushing through Blue. I'm like, oh, cool, like Dane's doing a podcast, that's really cool. I'm going to tune into it just because it's Dane, it's a friend of mine. And obviously mental health, it wasn't a sort of a topic I had a podcast for, so it was really good to have a brand new topic. And just listening to it, I'm like, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm going through some things at the moment, this podcast is going to help me. I just went into it. It was like, oh, I'm going to listen to it, hear Dane's story, what he's been through, and like certain guests each month coming on, listening to some things they went through. And sort of what I guess stood out to me was just some of the guests. Like, I think it was Kat in particular. She was just like listing off like things that she's going through or things that she's conditioned with or whatever, and she's just like rattling them off. But I know if that was me, I'd just be like struggling so much to be able to like, say that type of stuff and whatever. But it's really it's really a testament to just like some of the people and what a lot of people do go through just in day-to-day life, and how they handle it and how they move on and, you know, try and have a positive outlook on life. And I find it really uplifting. But just with the, as I said, like I didn't go into it sort of thinking like, oh, you know, I'm a bit sad at the moment, I need something to sort of think about and maybe whatever. I just like listen to it as whatever, and like you're always like pushing the message, like, you know, you've got to talk about it, there's help out there and whatever. And it wasn't until like months in like listening to it, and, you know, I was going through just like a dark spot of time, like I was just like feeling like really sad. A lot of my life, like I would have like ups and downs. I don't particularly know whether if I've got anything, or I got no idea, to be honest. I haven't gone to a doctor or anything, but I often find myself like feeling like either really happy, even like going right down and feeling really bad. And I've sort of recognized that the last year or so, like certain times of the year, like real happy, then it just goes down for like no particular reason, and I can sort of feel it come on. I'm like, oh no, this is sort of like, I can feel myself like falling. And I guess I've sort of recognized what can help you make me feel better or stop going into that plunge, whether it is just like doing physical exercise or whatever to sort of get going again. But it was through your podcast where I'm like, you know, I've heard so many times like, go to the doctor, go in and get help. No, I didn't end up going to the doctor, but I was at the point where I'm like, you know what, I've got to go to the doctor. But then that fall stopped happening, and I was starting to go back up, and I was like, oh, I don't have to go to the doctor anymore. I don't feel like I have to. I wasn't like feeling bad. But yeah, I guess that now that I've sort of said that out loud, what would you say to someone who's like, you know, they're feeling bad? Like in my position was like, you're feeling bad, you got to, I want to go to the doctor. So, oh no, I'm not feeling sad anymore. Would you say still go, or would you just be like, handle it as it goes? Because I was sort of not sure about that. I'm like, should I still go? Because if I went, I would have been like, oh, I feel fine, but I wasn't a week ago. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. And I guess to give some context as well as to the reason why I went, and a reason why a lot of people go, if they feel that they're really being affected with their mental health, is that it's really on a day-to-day basis for a long period of time. And how long's a long period of time? I mean, like there's reports out there to say 2 to 3 weeks. You know, if what you're going through is impacting on your day-to-day living, your day-to-day life, and how it, you know, what you do, then it's really a sign that, you know, you should start having at least conversations, you know, about what's going on. And GP is always a great space to start there. For me, you know, it got to a point like I would be every day with anxiety, you know, like there would be triggers constantly throughout the day, and it was definitely going on for more than 2 to 3 weeks. It was months. And I put up my hand now in hindsight, and I let it get that bad because, you know, I was just trying to ride the ride. And not to, I guess, defer from your question, like I was only thinking about it today, in having preparation and having a think about this podcast as well, is that I remember when it was like at my worst times, like what sort of roller coaster I would be on for work-wise and everyday living. Like Monday to Friday I always used to describe it as a roller coaster. Like Monday to Friday, I just knew I dreaded it because I was just running through that roller coaster. It's like when you're screaming down that roller coaster, and your mental health and my anxiety would just be going up and down, up and down, up and down all through the day. And it was always like Saturday was your breather. It was almost like you came to a point there where you just, okay, I can relax now. You know, all the walls are going down. And then Sunday, I hated Sundays. I hated Sundays because I knew what was going to come on the Monday. You know, all the anxiety and everything going for. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that for me, my anxiety is fine. Everyone has anxiety, you know, everyone has the fight or flight. It's severe anxiety. And when it comes on hard and fast, and it comes at all the times, you know, and it is impacting on the day-to-day things that you're doing, that's when I would say, you know, have these conversations and reach out for help. You know, depending on how you're feeling, you know, if it is impacting you on a day-to-day perspective, then, you know, I would definitely at least start having these conversations with people and just talking about it. Because I think, you know, as much as I say, you know, go see a doctor as like a point of reference to something that you can do that can help, I think it never should be discounted, the power in having a conversation. The power in having a conversation with just a friend, someone that genuinely cares in an environment that you're not going to be judged, can make a huge difference. And as I said earlier in this podcast, life is life. We're going to go through adversities. We're going to go through highs. We're going to go through lows. Sometimes we're just going to wake up and we're like, oh, well, today's, a shit day, or today's just, I don't really feel it today. Do you know what I mean? I guess it's just more about when those feelings, those thoughts, become a regular thing where they're really impacting you and your life, and it's happening for a longer period of time. And like full disclosure, like I am for anyone that sort of doesn't know who I am or doesn't listen to my podcast, I'm not a mental health expert, and nor do I ever say that the podcast and the conversations that I create should be a substitute for professional help. It's not. I just try and create awareness in having these conversations where needed. I try and create awareness to, and even more so from my most recent guests. One of the recent things that one of my recent guests taught me, and I'm always learning through the guests that come on, it's just about creating the skill sets, implementing the skill sets to create resilience. It's easy to, when looking at mental health, when life is going well, it's easy to coast. It's easy to be comfortable, and it's easy to just do the basics and not really invest in your own mental health. And by that, I mean self-care. And by that, I mean, like looking at exercise, doing the small things daily, having gratitude, perspective, connecting with others, all these things that you do that is really good for your mental health. Because I guess when it comes down to game day, as I call it, or when times, when you are having a bad day, or there's a bad time, or something, an event in life, does occur that really takes you down to, a really bad place, you've got the resilience there, the resilience that you've been working on for so long to get you through that period. Do you know what I mean? To ride, I guess, the lows, and to come back, stronger. So, I mean, like, mate, I think I would, have you had these, like, not to go into a full, like, analysis on it, but have you had chats with friends and family about this, or is it something that you just don't? Well, how do you feel about having chats if you haven't with friends and family about it?
Oh, I am quite open to have a talk with like mum, dad, and my partner. But to be honest, one of the things that really, really helped me, which is this might sound really weird, especially as someone who doesn't do podcasting, but I recorded just like a solo podcast, just like sort of explaining what happened with this podcast, and basically what was going inside my head, just to the patrons.
I did listen to that one. That was a really good episode.
Yeah, who support me over there at patreon.com/RadRuby. I just sort of sat there. It went for like 40 minutes. I don't know how I talked for 40 minutes, but I just sat there and sort of like, this is how I feel. Like, I just feel like shit. And like the week after, I had it just sort of happened to line up that there wasn't much work that week, so I had the week off, and I felt much better just getting it off my chest. I just talked to myself. It wasn't even necessarily to anyone else giving me advice or whatever, but I felt so much better. And because there was the guilt as well, because I just started this podcast, and with those feelings, I just lost all sort of, not necessarily motivation, just I felt like in my headspace I wouldn't be able to do it right. I wouldn't be able to put my best foot forward. Just whether it's like, talking to people and all that, and like trying to be I guess charismatic and all of that. Like, I guess like the person I think I am usually, but yeah.
I think on that point there, whether you have a conversation, whether you write it down as a journal, whether you're just writing down, your notes, however you want to do it, whether it's in a podcast form, like just regurgitating how you're feeling. Doesn't have to be to a person, can be to yourself, as I mentioned, can be to any sort of medium you want to put it into. It gives you just the ability to just get it out. You know what I mean? Just to be able to get it out of your mindset and put it on paper or put it on something, just to be able to just put it out there. Because I like in my own experience as well, it's huge. Like it does. And I'm so happy to hear you say that, like you felt better after doing that. One of the things that like I did as well, in preparing, I guess, for pushing through blue, is that I would every like my usual daily routine outside of COVID-19 used to be that I would drive to the train station and I'd jump on a train. I'd go on a train to work into the city. The train rides usually about an hour. Anyway, drive to the train station is around about 10 or 15 minutes, and I had like one of those Rode little mics that you put on yourself, and I would literally just have the Rode app on my phone, and I would connect it there, and I would just talk about what I'd be doing today, what's going on in my mindset, and just put it out there. And to be honest, that made me feel a lot better.
That's awesome.
And I think it was the starting point for me having conversations, if I can recall, but just the ability just to basically get it out of my brain, because I found that if I just left it in there, under a rock, or my head in the sand and not really wanting to talk or do anything about it, it just manifested, something that was so small. My mind had the ability in that mindset to make it bigger and bigger than it really was. And soon, fast forward, when I did start having those conversations, something that was so small, that started off so small, that grew into something, or I blew it out or lied to myself in my own mindset that it was this other thing. Having a conversation with someone, someone that I felt comfortable with, them saying, no, it's not that, it's this, and if it's a problem, well, let's break it down as a solution so we can get through it. And getting that perspective from someone is huge. It was definitely huge for me. But coming back to, putting it out there, it's a huge thing. And I know one of the podcasts that I listen to is Peter Wilkinson's Wilco. And so Wilco's had his podcast where he would just be talking about what's going on. And I think a big part of that podcast that he does is purely like that. It's a solo podcast. He talks about what's on his mind. I think it's great. Like, as a listener, I'm invested in what he's talking about, and I'm listening to what he's saying. And a lot of it is, the mix of what's going on in work, what's going on in life, how's things balancing act, and how it's playing on himself, and what he enjoys, all the things that he enjoys, to getting away from things that are distracting him. And I guess it's like, I can imagine, and I've spoken to him about this as well, is that just the ability to get it out there can be really therapeutic, and it's a great way of, like, as I said, self-care. It's a big way for you just to put it out there. So however it is that you want to do it, I think it's a big thing, and it can make you feel so much better just to get it out of your head, however form that you want to do it.
I guess it's like sort of like brainstorming and getting ideas onto paper and that too. It's just like you want to get some of these things just out of your head, whether it's like positive things, you just want to, brainstorm and get ideas and that, or if it is like, I feel like crap, I just want to get it out type of thing. And
yeah,
as corny as it sounds, like it really helped me. And whether your, I guess, preferred way is just writing it on paper or typing it or doing an art piece or whatever it might be, it definitely helped me anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Like, even like, as you mentioned, art piece, like any form of self-expression, like I've talked to a lot of people, and once again, it's the benefits of having guests on the show. I'm a bit guilty in the sense that I take a lot out of what the guests, that share from their own stories. I like just going through this, you mentioned Kat as well. Like, Kat was so open about her stories and experiences, because you could tell that she, it was one of the things that, like, even Ryan, I go back to Ryan as well. So Ryan Besson from the Pop Culturist, one of the things that he taught me about on his episode is about owning your mental illness. Only once you own it, only once you accept it, can you really sort of move forward to understand it, to acknowledge it. And I guess it's in different personalities, because speaking with Kat, Kat and Ryan have a very similar personality, where they're very logical, I think is the word. I hope it's the word, logical, where they, once they understand something, once they can see whether it's a diagnosis or they know that that's them, then, that's the condition, and then they can move, and it's the ability to then to speak openly about it. It's the ability to then to seek treatment, just to have honest conversations about it. You know what I mean? And I think once you get through that barrier, if you are suffering from a mental illness, so if you are struggling with mental health and been doing so for a long time, I think, and it was one that I learned as well, was that coming to accept it is huge, because only once you can accept it do you really start to move forward. Do you start to get better? Do you start to implement things? And I'm not saying like there might be just one level of spectrum there, but it's also about, just looking after your own mental health. And like, even like just some of these guests that we've had on, some of these guests have really, touched me as well, is that like Simon's a big one. Like Simon Blackburn has been amazing support for me with the podcast, on the podcast, as a friend. He's been so huge. And I wouldn't have met him had it not been for my own episode. Simon reached out to me after listening to my episode, and saying that, my story resonated with him, and it was only until then did I really realize, like, my story and sharing my story was once again very therapeutic for me. It allowed me to basically accept, my history, accept what happened to me, and allow me to move forward, and hoping that it would help someone else. And here's Simon reaching out to me saying, I'm going to listen to the episode, and my story is very similar to your story, and sharing his story with me on an episode, and just having that connection. And I hope, and that's what I want people to have. I want people to have connections with other people that are sharing their stories, because then having Simon reach out to me and saying me too, and helping him and sharing his story, like, it just made me feel absolutely less alone. And here's two guys that are just working at it, being open and honest about it. And that's the big thing about the platform. The platform's about just having, no judgment and just helping others. And walking away after having those conversations feeling like, I feel great. I feel a lot better, and it's a big power that you can have on yourself when you can start controlling that. And you control that by, having these conversations or getting it out there, whichever form that you use. Podcast is a fantastic form. It reaches so many people, and you can touch the hearts and minds of others through your own stories and experiences. And it's one of the big things that, like, I encourage anyone to do, if they're going through something or been through something, is to share it, because that's how we break through the stigma. This is because we're having conversations about honest conversations. And man, you'd be surprised that the amount of people that are out there that just want to hear something that resonates with them. They want to, something that hits home for them, something that is just so real that they're living with day to day, or just even like looking after yourself. The plainest of forms, people looking after physical health, which is so important. It's also important to look after your mental health, and we can do that in so many different ways, and it looks different to everyone. But yeah, sorry, I digress, mate. I do ramble. I apologize that. I just care. And hopefully, it all comes from a good place.
Yeah, that's why you're on, to have a nice ramble.
Right, mate. I do ramble.
It's sort of like it. That has changed how I sort of view it too. Like, if you might look down at your guts and you might be like, oh, I'm getting a bit fat. Maybe I should sort of pivot things and start eating more healthy and doing some more exercise. And you'll try and fix that. It's sort of how I view sort of maybe my mental health. Like, I don't think about it all the time now, but say if I have this might sound bad, but like when I was really bad, I was like thinking like, how do I word this without making it sound awful? I was thinking like, I want to kill myself basically, but I wasn't suicidal. I wasn't gonna hurt myself. I definitely was not. But it is just like a mechanism in your head when you're bad to sort of like, keep like to calm yourself, I guess.
Yep.
Just
I appreciate that.
Just like I guess it's like a click, just like that'll fix things. But it's not going to. And I was not at the point where that was gonna be a thing I was gonna do. So I don't want to scare anyone if my mum or anyone listens to this, But but it is a thing now where I'm like, oh, I had a pretty sharp feeling of depression, whether it's because whatever reason. Like I sort of think about it now and go, oh, let's detour that. Let's do some physical thing, or let's watch a movie, a fun movie, not a sad movie, or there are things where you're like, all right, let's sort of try and fix this. It's like before it starts, because it's a lot harder to sort of dig out of once you're actually there, because there is a part of you that like wants to stay there when you are like really down and like depressed. There is like part of you because like, especially when people say like, oh, just be happy, just smile, just whatever.
Yeah, it's the worst thing you say. Yeah,
it's like, oh, well,
mindset.
It's like there's a bit there that's just like, yeah, just get up and smile and be happy. But there's that bit that wants to keep you there, and that's the really hard part to sort of like push away. That's what I felt anyway. But
and I appreciate your honesty, mate, and I thank you for saying those things. And I think I can resonate with that with regards to those thoughts. I think when I was going through depression, and I guess how my depression evolved is that my anxiety got so bad that I started looking at my own self-worth, and that was the entrance, like that was the gateway effectively into my depression. I took things that went wrong, mistakes that I would make as a value point to myself. I would say, that's just a reflection of my own self-worth, and it's lies, and it's absolute bullshit. And like now I can say that, with a clearer headspace. But when you're in that headspace, it's all thoughts. And I completely understand when you're coming from, when you're saying things like, you know, having those suicidal ideations. I think what needs to be important here is that we all think, we're all human beings, and we have thoughts coming through our minds, you know, whether it's thoughts of, you know, I want to kill myself or things like that. But it's all about, it's okay, accept it that you are allowed to have thoughts. And it's all about, you've got thoughts running through your mind, and it's about you catching those thoughts. You're not catching those thoughts. You know, I'd certainly had thoughts about that myself. And it's just ignored. There are thoughts that come and go, and it's all about you controlling it as to what you catch. And I guess that's a big thing, you know, when people are talking about meditation as well, it's just that it allows you the ability to stop and be mindful and stop a lot of the noise that goes on inside your headspace and reset yourself into a better headspace. And it's only one of the things that you've got to take action onto. Like you mentioned there, I was definitely in a headspace where my default was negativity. You know, when I was in that headspace, everything, like I could take the most positive things and I would turn it into fear or anxiety or negativity. And it was only sort of once that I sort of just realized I need to retrain my brain. And I know that it sounds corny, but for me it works. And the only way you do that is if you put in the time and the effort into doing it. You know what I mean? And it's about, for me, it was about perspective. Like a lot of the things that I was so negative on is just the fact that I would put myself into fear that something so small would turn out to be something so big. You know, or something so right could turn out to be something so, you know, bad later on, or that'll happen to me, or so on. But it's just about like for me, what helped me is, and one of the things that helped me was having perspective, which has now evolved into gratitude. You know, perspective allowed me to turn those small things that I would turn into huge things in my own headspace back to small things. How I do that is I take a minute to step back, you know, and I reassess and I step away and I give myself time. Whereas usually, you know, previously I would just, you know, be triggered by something and immediately just need to fix it immediately. Do you know what I mean? I would need to, if it was something that went wrong, I had to fix it. I could not drop it otherwise. If it was a negative, if it was something bad that was going to happen, you know, I had to make sure that it didn't happen, and I couldn't just wait. And it was all about stressing over all these things that I had no control of. A lot of these things I had no control of. And a lot of the things that I stressed about, you know, I thought was so big in my headspace, but they weren't. They were nothing. And half the time the stresses that I'd worry about didn't even come to fruition. So it was just like, I look at it now, I'm like, fuck, all that time and energy that I wasted. But you know what? In that headspace, that's just how it was. And over time, I just learnt to step away and do small things to try and reset my brain. And I did that through affirmations. There was one of the things when I was seeing a psychologist, and you know, I implemented small things daily. And it's all about that. Small things that you can incorporate in your daily life to just, you know, that you can work at, that you can add at, you know, that you know, you can just collectively put into your routines that will make it a better day. And as much as you can do in the mornings is absolutely perfect. But you know, just going for walks, you know, exercise is obviously a big one there. And everything, like I can list these things that have worked for me, but I guess sometimes it comes down to trial and error. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes what works for me may work for yourself. But like I found, like, you know, going for walks in the mornings worked so well. I was listening to a podcast. One of the first podcasts that I listened to was, it's called The Daily Boost. It was run by an American. It's still going. It's been going for years. I don't know how long this guy's been going for, but he literally does a podcast every day. It goes for about 5 minutes, and it's just real world affirmations, not fluffy stuff. It's literally just like, hey, you ever thought about this? And this thing was huge. And then, you know, really, when you looked at it close, it was smaller. It makes you think. Like, I'm probably just butchering that, but like, it was just something daily that didn't take up too much of my time. That was just something I could put in my ears to be like, yeah, you know, I could think of something like that. But, you know, really, here's another way of thinking about it. And it was just it was affirmations. It really was affirmations, you know, that was delivered to me in a way that I resonated with. And once again, just listening to people's stories, and this is like, you know, connecting and gratitude, as I mentioned, that the gratitude, I'm so grateful for everything that around me. And I never want to let go of that. You know, I'm so grateful for the basics, you know, to have this house, to have food on the table, to have some money in the bank, to have the health of my family. Like, I mean, number one, you know, there's so many people, especially in this sort of circumstance with, you know, COVID-19, that people are losing their lives. People can't connect to the people that they love as a result of this. And I've got everyone under my roof right here, you know, that I love dearly, and I can talk to them, and they're healthy and happy. And just to know what you can control, and just be grateful for that around you. And I think it's just, for me, it's something that I just have a daily reminder for, and it's something that, like everything, you just got to put in the work to do it. Going back to physical health, like in the shape I'm in now, it sucks going back to do fitness and weights and everything else, because I've got to start from scratch again. And yeah, it sucks. The honesty is, lifting weights, I can't lift what I used to do now. And I'm going to have to do a lot of work to get back to where I used to be. And it is what it is. But I know, what? It's going to make me stronger. I'm going to, every time that I do it, it's going to get easier and easier. And it's something that's going to take energy and time and effort, and nothing happens overnight. And it was a headspace that I had to get out of. When I was in my, in my worst with anxiety, I was just looking for the magic pill, the magic cure, something, that would just basically flick the way that I was thinking. And then when I came to the outcome that it's not going to be an easy fix, then that's sort of when I just went, well, how am I ever going to get out of it? Well, I did get out of it. And you know what? For me, it's something, and like many people, it's something that never goes away, and it's something that you accept and you acknowledge. And when you do that, it makes it easier to manage. And it's something that I just manage, but I still got to put in the work like everyone else. And I'm always mindful, especially in times like this, this is where all that work comes into fruition. This is where everything that you've done up until this time that you've been putting the work into comes into it, because what we're going through now, there's heightened levels of anxiety and loneliness and all things that play on your mental health. And I guess this is where you implementing what you've been doing, and you connecting with people, it's never don't feel like it's, I haven't put in the work and it's too late. It's not, that's rubbish. It's just got to start connecting with people. And I once again, I ramble and I apologize, but one of the people that I had on that really just inspired me was Rocker Mummy, Jessie.
Mm-hmm.
To hear her story about how she has social anxiety, to hear that, for so many people, and me included, and I was one of these people, and, I'm mindful that maybe I still do have traits of this as well, is that there's triggers. Sometimes there's triggers in life, that cause us to have severe anxiety or depression or things like that. And what that does, if people aren't willing to sort of accept that and work towards breaking through those barriers, in their time, within their limits and boundaries, is that a part of their life just gets taken away from them. They cancel out doing anything that basically can cause triggers, or they cancel out anything that, allows them to have the quality of life or enjoying the things that they might enjoy, but they just can't because of, of fear, of pure fear. And I guess what Rucker Mummy taught me is that through her social anxiety, she loves video games. She's got a massive passion for community and connection and all the things that she does. And, PAX was a huge one for her. And to hear her story about this is a beautiful lady that has, an anxiety disorder that just becomes so debilitating for her to be around, big crowds. And here she is in love with the communities and video games, and going to the biggest convention in Australia, PAX Australia. And just hearing her story, every year, it hasn't been there's the earlier stages there. I think she's been 3 years, and hearing her story every year, how she gets stronger. She implements the skill sets to get better, to be able to meet people, and these are big things. These are big things that she's been, working towards doing. Every year she doesn't get better. She doesn't get stronger. She doesn't do taking the next step forward because it's just luck. She invests in it. She invests in herself. And it's just that ability. She's just living proof that she works every day. The Twitch channel, I still don't, for someone that's never been on Twitch, and mate, I know you've been on Twitch, but I don't feel that I could ever do it. And Rock Mummy said, well, you don't know until you give it a go, and you get into your uncomfort zone. And once you get there, that's really when the learning starts. And go within your limits, go at your own speed, but no, it's never deterred her. She knows what she's after. She knows she's passionate, and it's so easy. The easy option would say, well, I can't do it. That's just a part of my life that I've just got to forget now because I just have, it just affects me so much. But she chooses not to. It's a choice, and she puts in the work so she can keep doing it. And to me, that's inspiring. To me, it's real. It's genuine. You can see it. She's awesome. And all her guests are awesome. Everyone's got a different story. Everyone goes through their adversities. Everyone's had a different upbringing. Everyone's had different experiences, And I don't want to sit here and say I guess one of the things that I don't ever want to come across with the podcast and having these conversations with people is to say, I know how you feel. I don't. Unless you've actually been through everything this person's been through, unless you've lived their life and experienced what they've experienced, on so many levels, you don't know. But you can certainly appreciate the strength in these people and just to cheer them on and keep them going, just keep them pushing forward, and having the strength and lifting them up, because there's a lot of negativity out there and it sucks and I hate it, but you just got to, do your best that you can to just quiet the noise, quiet all the distractions, quiet the insecurities of others because they see you doing good things or working on yourself. And it's so important. Look after yourself. But yeah, sorry, mate. I went on transit, but yeah, sorry.
It's all good. Just with Rockamummy, like hearing her story and after PAX happened, and I didn't get an opportunity to talk to her, but she came along and said hello to Simon and that, and she came. And to me, she just came across as like a really chirpy, happy person. I'm like, yeah, awesome, cool. I don't think it was till after, I think Simon said, oh, that's Rockamummy off Twitter. Oh, of course. Like I recognized her and I follow her on Twitch and that. I'm like, oh, of course. That was her. And hearing the story after, I'm like, are you serious? She came across as like the most like bubbly, sociable person I came across at PAX. Like she's just like, hey guys, how you going? No, I gotta go. Oh, crazy. It's like, oh, yeah. Right, no. Like hearing that, I'm like, you sure? Are you the same person? But it's awesome that and
that's her. Like, and that is Rockamummy. Like, she is such a bubbly person. Just like when I, chatting with Castleberry, like these are amazing people. They're so bubbly. Yeah. They're full of positivity. They want nothing but to lift each other up and within, around the circles of themselves and around the community. That's them. That is the core of them. It's just that as well, there's a part of it that they do struggle with. And it's the whole, the duck with the cool on the top and the legs going like nuts, and that's really what happens on the inside. And I think people just need to be, and that's the thing, like people just, and that's why I'm a big advocate for kindness. You know what I mean? Like you just don't know, these small acts of kindness, not only does it like give you self-worth and value that you're delivering that to someone, but also like depending on your headspace and just, you don't know what a person's going through. You don't know what sort of day they've had, what week, what's going on behind the scenes. And I think, I think nothing but kindness, showing kindness can only be positive to people. Do you know what I mean? And I think as a default, people sort of go for the negativity. And I don't know what it is, whether it's a society thing, maybe it's like clickbait or socials, and it transfers into personalities and things like that. But like, I'm just like, get rid of that, get that out of here, get that noise gone, and just let's create this, more positive vibe where we lift people up. But yeah, no, she's awesome. She's such a great, genuine person. Yeah,
and like it is easy to be like, I guess for some people, just like, oh yeah, this sucks, you suck, you're crap. It's just like sit there on your phone and just be like, put negativity out there. But like you said, like, yeah, just be nice to people because it makes you feel good. It will probably make them feel good. And at the end of the day, that's what you want. So I think we might wrap up there. Anything else you sort of just want to put in there before we run off to I don't know what I'm saying. Anything you want to say before we
run off to Animal Crossing and Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah, sure. I don't know why I couldn't get that out my mouth. But.
No, you're right. Look, from my point of view, I just want to thank you for your time, mate. Thanks for having us on the podcast. Mate, you've been a huge supporter for the podcast and not only as a listener, but just helping us, create this awareness. And I know even just through your own conversations, and I appreciate you having these open conversations. And I hope that, a listener out there that's listening to this will resonate with it. And if it's something that you enjoy or you feel that someone's getting value, you think someone else will get value from it, just then certainly share it because, we just don't know what people are going through. And I guess, the ability for you to take simple actions of kindness or connecting with people can make a huge difference. For those, obviously we're all going through COVID-19 at the moment, and we're all sort of in this together. And I know that term's been thrown out a fair bit, but like literally we are in this, we're all trying to do the best we can in the situation that we're in at the moment. I think we're all being affected in different ways to different degrees. Certainly, like more people than others are being financially, physically, emotionally, mentally affected. So let's just make an effort. Let's commit to just being kind, sharing positivity. Do a bit every day. Change something within yourself to just try and be the best version of yourself. And I don't mean that like in any sort of like cliche type of way, but just like
Superman.
you don't know the situation that you'll be in until you're in it. Do you know what I mean? You don't know what you don't know until you've heard it firsthand through experiences from someone that's lived it. So we can all do small things for ourselves, for the people around us. Yeah, mate. And I appreciate you just having these conversations and opening up to it. So yeah, thank you.
No, absolutely. You've got an ally with me to keep pushing the podcast and your message forward. It's really, really cool. So
thanks, mate.
Speaking of the podcast, pushing flu.
Can't say flu, can't cough, can't sneeze, none of that now.
Yeah, don't push the flu. Pushing through blue. Well, where can people find it if they're interested in listening?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Look, we're if you search Pushing Through Blue, that's BLU, across any of your listening podcast services, hopefully you'll find it. I mean, the biggest ones are probably Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But yeah, just have a look. I'm finding it in places that I didn't think was going to be there. I set it through Anchor, so it really just pops up everywhere. If it's something that you enjoy, as I mentioned, I would appreciate it greatly if you could share the message. Share the message on your socials within your community just to have a listen. Just exactly the same with this podcast here, as well as all the projects that Drew does as well. Mate, you do a lot, so I commend you for that. But yeah, and we're on socials as well. Twitter, Instagram are probably our two biggest ones there. And yeah, I'm just interested in your feedback. The conversations that are shared on the podcast, if it doesn't resonate with yourself, will certainly provide some awareness and education if you ever need it for the people around you. And it's like anything. It's like watching a doco. You get a different perspective, you get a different insight, and it's something that I hope that people walk away with a lot of value from. It's people that are sharing their honest, genuine stories about their own reflections and experiences. And I think it's the most powerful thing, knowing it's coming from a personal place, a lived experience place. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hope it provides you with value and someone around you, and it helps in some way.
Yeah, excellent. And I'm really happy that I could have you on to sort of get back into doing this podcast, since it was pretty much related to why it sort of fell away for 8 months. But really looking forward to starting it up again. And thank you very much for just your time and everything.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Always a pleasure. Love to be on. And I've got to get back on to House of Mario too. We've got to talk some Nintendo stuff. Maybe when I reset my island and I get caught up. I don't know if I'll do the time skip, but so you might have to give me just a little bit. I still haven't even got up to turnips yet. All I see is turnips. Everyone's selling turnips, trying to buy turnips, sell turnips. I'm not even up there to there yet. So
I'm not in that game yet, just either. I'm just shaking trees and selling oranges.
I'm shaking trees, catching sea bass, trying to sell sea bass, not paying off bills.
Getting you 200 bills per sea bass or whatever it is.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
You get nothing. So I'm back.
All right, Dane. I'll catch you later.
Awesome. Much love, mate. Cheers.
All right, everyone. That's the end of that story. And thank you very much for listening. Dane's a bloody legend, so go and check him out on Twitter at Dane Pevy, and his show at Pushing Through Blue, all in the show notes. And please go and check out his podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also follow me on Twitter at iDruby to keep up with the show, because God forbid, I hope it keeps going and doesn't stop like it did before. And if you want to support this show and other shows like the House of Mario and Nintendo podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/iDruby and leave us a tip there. But until next time, have a good one. A Drew story is lovingly crafted and recorded in the southeast of South Australia. The show is produced and hosted by me, Drew Agnew. If you enjoy my work here and on my other podcasts, The House of Mario, Encore at The House of Mario, and Kraken Furfies, help spread the word by sharing us with a mate or leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you'd like to show further support and help me achieve my goal of freeing up one working day a week to spend more time refining and creating podcasts, please consider checking out patreon.com/iDruby, where for only $1 you get access to my secret recordings where I share everything behind the scenes. A big thank you to the legend DJ for supporting the content at the podcast producer level on Patreon. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.